Imagine, if you will, a different kind of leader. Not the hard-hitting command and control type we're all used to seeing in boardrooms or hearing about in business school case studies, but someone who operates on a different frequency. This leader isn't armed with an arsenal of demands or a shield of detachment. Instead, they bring to the table a secret weapon so powerful, yet so underestimated in the realms of corporate warfare: empathy. Now, you might be thinking, empathy and leadership, how does that fit into the cutthroat world of business, where strength and decisiveness reign supreme? Yet here lies the twist in our tale. This leader, who operates on a frequency of understanding and connection, is flipping the script on traditional leadership narratives. They're proving that the strength of a leader isn't measured by how high they build their walls, but by how well they understand and bridge the gaps between them and their team. Now envision a business transformed by these empathetic leaders, a place where the work environment is built on mutual understanding rather than competition, where leaders excel not by dictating, but by listening and connecting. In this world, empathy doesn't just change the way we work, it redefines success. It becomes the silent force that drives loyalty, creativity, and passion, turning the office into a community where everyone feels valued and understood. As we dive into the stories of these trailblazers, let's consider the impact of leading with empathy. It's about shifting from mere transactional interactions to meaningful connections. Welcome to this week's episode of the Moe Rock Show. Now let's get started. I am so excited. I'm excited because this week we have the unique opportunity of having our special celebrity guest co-host, Baron Dr. James Dentley, with us, who's going to help navigate the waters for the next hour while we have this powerful conversation with a group of handpicked leaders discussing the idea, Baron Dr. James Dentley, of empathy and leadership. You see, as I spoke about in the monologue, there's this counterintuitive idea that to be successful, empathy is something that could be problematic. You know, we have we discussed this concept before here on the program, and today we're going to do a deep dive with successful leaders. And one thing I know about all of the individuals that we invited for today's program, they're all empathetic and they're all successful. So Baron Dr. James Dentley, thank you for being our celebrity guest co-host this week. I'm curious to hear your opening remarks about this subject matter of empathy and success, please.
Well, you know, in the book by Stephen Covey, well, first and foremost, I'm honored to be here. You know, the Moe Rock Show, the Los Angeles Tribune is the best in class, always raising the bar and focused on and committed to sharing and giving some insightful information, some insightful places people can go just to expand, but also a vessel for people to be heard. Their stories can get out there. Their expertise can be out there. And you and your entire staff, I really want to tip the hat to you because this topic is so impactful, and that's the way you lead. As I met everyone that works with you, it is obvious that you're living this message. So when you talk about empathy, in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey stated, first seek to understand before being understood. And as a leader, in any shape, form, or fashion, even as a parent, it's about listening. And in listening, if you develop the curious nature, then it's important to you to understand a person's point of view, to understand where they are, instead of making snap judgments. And, you know, if I can tell you a quick story about, there was a man on a subway train, and he had his head buried down and you know, just looking at the floor. He had 3 kids, and they were running up and down the train, being very disruptive. They were loud, they were bumping into people, and one of the kids bumped into a woman and tipped over her tea into her lap, and she was irate. And she went up to the man and said, what kind of parent are you? You know, your kids, you have no control of them whatsoever. And the man lifted his head up. He had tears in his eyes. And he said, I really want to apologize. We just left the hospital, and my wife, their mom, just passed away. And I guess We just don't know how to handle it. And even as leaders, sometimes we can jump to conclusions. We're not getting the things that we want, or we're not getting the performance that we want without understanding the person, without walking in their particular shoes. So I think it's extremely important to be very calm, very clear, and very curious and compassionate. If you do that, you'll find that you'll get people to perform at a higher level because they want to, not because that they have to.
So powerful, Dr. Dentley, and thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. And I want the folks at home to really appreciate the fact that we have not just a baron, not just a doctor, not just a leader, but a Hall of Fame speaker here with us for the next hour. So if you're watching in the virtual auditorium, share this and ask questions, because it's not very often you have this kind of direct access to these kinds of thought leaders. Speaking of thought leaders, let's start with our first round of guests. I want to welcome Rachel Weaver. I want to welcome our very own Alicia Magnus Lewis. I want to welcome Lori McNeil, and of course, Danella Burnett here to the stage. This week, we're going to have a very powerful conversation, and I'm going to kick it off with a question that you can see in the title. Can kindness catapult you to success? And I'm going to start off by asking this question to you, Rachel Weaver. Can kindness catapult you to success? Floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, Mo. It's an honor to be here. I 100% believe that kindness absolutely can catapult you to success. The way that you treat other people is going to be a reflection of all of the energy that you attract into your surroundings and into your world. So whether that be on a personal level or a business level, I believe putting kindness out into the world, no matter what the circumstances are, can always bring good back to you. So that is my firm belief about kindness.
Incredible. And next we'll go to Lori McNeil, and I'm going to step aside, and Baron Dr. James Dentley will be leading the conversation for the next few minutes as our special celebrity guest co-host here on the Los Angeles Tribune. Lori McNeil.
Well, hello.
As I think about this question, I think about the definition of success, first of all, because it's very interesting how we define success in different realms of our life. And we all have kind of a different way that we look at success and a different way that we define success. And I'm sure that all of us have heard at different times in our life that, there's almost like this correlation between sometimes being kind and being weak. And I think that when we really do a deeper dive into the definition of success and what it means to actually be a loving servant leader with kindness, that it actually can change our perspective in the way that we even navigate the world. So when we think about who we are and how we show up in kindness toward other people and being in that higher version of ourselves, we actually then will attract the right people and understand that even if people maybe don't treat us with kindness in return, that it's actually, more or less their issue, their challenges, their own issues that they have going on that really doesn't have anything, to do with us. So first of all, we have to understand what our own definition of success is and what that means, and understand that we're in our own lane. And it doesn't matter if our definition matches anyone else's definition. But when we show up as our true selves with complete kindness in everything that we do and are truly authentically kind to people, no matter what, no matter how, we are treated, and stand up for ourselves and what is right, that we absolutely can define our own success and live fully a life of kindness through success. So to understand how all of these pieces fit together and do that deeper dive into the definitions of those, I think is a really important aspect to understanding how kindness can actually lead to greater success.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Miss Burnett, I've known you for quite some time, and you always have been, I've never seen you unkind in any situation. I know that you care about the people that you work with, the people around you, and that's just how you show up. So share with us your definition of kindness, and how does that been into your style of leadership, your part? Because after all, titles don't make you a leader, only people do. So what would you say to your definition of kindness and leadership?
Yeah, I thank you for your kind words, and I love working with you, Baron Sir Dr. James Dentley and Mo. Thank you for bringing together such an incredible group of leaders today. And I do think kindness plays a big role in our success today. People are not; they have a choice in who they're going to follow. They have a choice in who they're going to get information from. Because let's be very, very real. We are experts in this information age, but there is very, very little that we provide as far as information that can't be found on Google or YouTube or that we haven't shared out in the world already. So people can get our content, they can get our information, they can get our expertise. What they can't get is their experience with us as a person, as a leader, as somebody that we're supporting, we're mentoring, we're providing services for. And so people do have a choice today. People have a choice in where they want to spend their money. They have a choice in who they want to spend time with. And I think we're definitely entering an age for a couple of reasons that people don't have a lot of patience for where they're not welcome. They don't have a lot of patience for where they don't feel good. And while that can create some of its own problems, sometimes we have to kindly bring people through the hard stuff, and success takes work. They're not going to stick around unless there's a reason for them to stick around. They're not going to feel that they can get to the other side unless they feel like you're in the trenches with them. And so I think that that's something, that's certainly a part of what we do at Speakers Need to Speak. We're providing platforms and opportunities for our speakers, but if we're not providing the mentorship and the guidance and the encouragement, they're not going to get out on those stages. They're not going to impact the world, and they're not going to become the kind of leaders that we want to support them into being. So, thank you that my desire to be, a kind person and an empathetic person and a leader that people follow, you've seen evidence of that. And I mean, what a great collection of leaders here. I know everyone here personally, and I know that everyone leads with that element of empathy. And to be really honest, it makes good business sense. Because as Lori was just pointing out, people aren't going to stay where they don't feel welcome, where they don't feel responded to, where they don't feel listened to. So it makes good business sense to have that. And I'll tell you what, I enjoy success and I enjoy money in the bank, but I also enjoy laying my head down at night, feeling like I've done a good job and that people's experience for having connected with me is made better for that time together. So I think it makes good business sense and it feels good.
It really, really does. And as I go to Alicia, it feels fantastic. And it's really about when you're kindness is always associated with calmness. It's not erratic. It's very calmness, and calmness gives you clarity. And I want to move over to Alicia and ask her the same question because I remember the first day I met you, and my wife and I were at a gala, and you came out, you were just so helpful. And on behalf of my entire team, I want to say thank you, honestly, because you've been helpful with anything we've ever needed and your advice, and you ask for nothing in return. So we thank you for that because with these ladies on this panel, it's not just about the topic, it's about who you are as an individual. You live your message. So it's hard because what's inside comes out. So Alicia, tell us about your definition of kindness and leadership and how do those two blend for you? And how did you become this incredible person that can just share and give and have all this amazing talent, but we're willing to share it and make a difference?
Well, thank you so much, Sir Baron, Dr. James Dentley. I really appreciate that. And for me, it's people are people first. People are people. They want to engage with you and relate with you as a person. And it's seeing people as people, whether it is a client, whether it is a partner, whether it is a distributor, whether it is a vendor, whoever it is that you're engaging with, they're a person first. Before they show up to work, they're a person. Before they take out their, their purse, their wallet to purchase something, they are a person. So I think it's really about meeting people where they're at and seeing them as a person first, not just a dollar, not just a partner, not just someone that's going to get you to the next place, and then connecting with them from that place, from that point of view. And if you're able to create an authentic connection with them, like Danila, like Lori said, then you will be successful. Then whatever you're doing with them, whatever that endeavor is, it's going to grow and scale because you're able to connect with them as a human first, and then figure out the value that you are contributing to them or the value that they are bringing to you. And so I think it's when you can be kind and when you can be empathetic and show up as a person first, ask someone how their day is going and really mean it. If it's someone that you're working with at work, ask them about their family and remember what they said. So next time you can follow up because you see them as a person first, then you can really start to grow those relationships, whether it's that client relationship, that partner at work, that person that you may just see down the street and you actually don't know when you may bump into them. See a person as a person first. That's going to help you be successful because you're creating a community, and with community there is unity, and you are unified for whatever like that core goal is. That's that goal that you have in your business or in your life.
Outstanding. Likability is the bridge to trust. You don't trust the person the moment you meet them, but if you like them, then it's the bridge that can build out to the trust. I want to ask all you ladies a question, and you can answer them one at a time. We'll start with Lori. Can you share with us an example of in leadership how empathy helped you create a winning culture, solve a solution, or create a phenomenal outcome in a turbulent time?
Oh man, there's so many layers to that question. There's so many layers to that question, but in my everything that I do, I try to show up. And this sounds so cliche, but I mean, there's so many leaders and so many people in this space that don't really know truly what it means to show up as your authentic self and what that really looks like. And there's so much of the, fake it till you make it kind of stuff going on. And I think that people want that, but because they don't do the deeper dive, they don't really understand the process and what it takes to get to where they want to go sometimes. And I think that when you show up authentically as yourself and understand really truly understand what you have gone through and all that you've emotionally experienced and everything that you've experienced and the things that you have learned through all of that, and you don't forget that. It's easy to say like, oh yeah, I've learned through that, I've transformed, I've gone through transformation, now I'm helping other people. But I think when you're working with people and you remember and don't forget how far you've come and where you've come from, and that you keep that really almost top of mind in a healthy way, that it allows you to really meet people where they are and understand, even though you might not understand their exact situation that they are in at that moment, you can empathize and you can identify and you can understand based on the emotion that they must be feeling in that. The stress that they must be feeling, or the sadness or the happiness, or whatever it is that the emotion is. We've all experienced a gamut of emotions, of different experiences in our life. And I think that when we really know ourselves and understand and are connected with who we are as people, that it really, and as leaders, it really allows us to identify immediately where someone is coming from and make that connection through that emotion, even if we haven't gone through that exact experience that they're going through in that moment. So I think that as leaders, when we can keep that in a healthy way and understand how that contributes to our own leadership and how that contributes to how we're showing up and how we're serving other people, that can make a huge, huge difference. It's not just something in the past from last year, 5 years, 10 years ago, but we keep that as a working part of who we are on a regular basis, and as the thing that drives us, that we understand, that's a part of the internal tools in our toolbox that I always say help us uniquely. We are uniquely qualified with our internal tools to solve external problems in the world. Well, the best way that we can do that is when we stay completely connected to our emotions of everything that we've experienced in order to immediately empathize with somebody when they have something going on. That allows us to help walk that person through the process that they need, and to allows us to hold space for them in a way that they feel that connection, because they feel our empathy, they feel our kindness, they feel our leadership, they feel the strength. They know that they're not alone, even if there's not that exact situation that they can identify with. There's all these things that they then like, know, and trust, that they can actually trust us to help move them through that particular situation. So I think when we are constantly adding to our internal toolbox, and we're constantly doing that self-reflective work and that growth work within ourselves to be the higher and higher version of the best leaders that we can be, it allows us to immediately recognize and pivot and switch gears and meet people where they are in order to walk through that process wherever they are in that moment to help meet that need, so that the work can continue. And sometimes we know it and we speak it on stage and we teach it and we write about it in books and we know it's there, but I think that leaders don't usually identify things immediately and switch gears to meet people where they are and to really hold that space, or at least recognize it from the beginning, just for all kinds of reasons. And so I think that as leaders, we need to really be aware and immediately be able to identify that and hold that space and walk them through that process. And it's not always about checking things off of our, results list, right, at that particular moment, but it's getting to the result in a different way, and that person needs you to be there for them so that they can even transform their own mind to continue on with their path and in their process of checking those things off the list, so to speak. You can't move forward in a process if you're not quite in the right mindset. So in order to really recognize and transition so that the right mindset can continue to get to the result. And I think that that is a super important part of this entire process as leaders, is to be quicker to recognize that.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Rachel, if you still have the question, but I want you to personalize it, and please share. But I want you to give us an example of when you were faced with a situation where empathy, where kindness, even in a situation that the outcome, you may have to even let someone go, or you had to address a behavior. Give us an example, but please feel free to share as well your concept of an experience you've had with that, and what was the outcome.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dentley. I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight. So I couldn't agree more with what you said, Lori, on so many levels, but personally, you're asking for my personal experience. And so I am going to share with you all part of empathy, in my opinion, is, it definitely starts with the leader. It starts with me and the culture that I create amongst my team. Mm-hmm. And when you create a safe space that allows people to be open with you, to be honest with you, you then in turn develop something that's really, really special and unique. Because I believe that when you do, just like Lori said, the way that you make people feel, bar none, is more important than anything you will ever say. Any award that you give them, any extra bonus that you give them, it's the way you consistently show up and make them feel. And so I did have an experience one time several years ago, and it was a pretty significant financial mistake that one of my team members made. And she had not been with our team very long, with our company very long. And so she really had two different options. Am I going to go to her? Am I going to go to Rachel and tell her what I did? Or am I going to do what many people would probably recommend me to do and say, we're at this very large event with over 1,000 people in the audience. you can just wait and tell her later. She's not going to know right now that what we are supposed to be providing is not present, right?
Mhm.
She'll find out later and we'll deal with it when that time comes. And she made the decision because of the culture that we created. For me, nothing is more important than integrity, honesty, and loyalty. And that is, I have always, I teach my children and I teach everyone that's on my team. If you always come to me, because we are humans and we will always, all of us make mistakes, including myself. And so coming forward and being honest about your mistake is definitely going to help you save not only yourself. So she came to me and said, I made a big mistake and it's going to probably take 6 months to a year for me to pay this mistake back. But I'm so sorry. And I will pay back all of the funds that we have lost because this was my mistake because you asked me to do something and I failed. And so when she came to me in that moment, of course, I was devastated. But the fact that she was so scared, but also came to me with transparency and honesty, there was no way I would ever ask her to repay me. In fact, I wanted to reward her because I believe that she showed up with an integrity by coming forward and letting me know about the mistake rather than waiting until that last minute and I had to find out behind the scenes. And so I believe it's all part of the culture that we create and leading with that perspective of giving people a safe space to always be able to come to you and be honest and transparent. Because at the end of the day, even as the top leaders of companies, I have consulted with some very high level leaders. And a lot of times when there are challenges within the organization, it's because there are challenges within that leader and what's going on within their own hearts and head. And so I say it is an ongoing work in progress, a journey to continue to be better every single day, no matter how much we achieve in our life, as long as we come forward with that mindset of wanting to be better and being open and honest with everyone around us about the fact that we are always striving to be better and creating that kind of culture, I believe is definitely always going to pay off for us.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. That was awesome. Daniela, I want to ask you the same question to give us an example of an experience you've had and where the empathy and the love and the caring, the compassion in leadership. But I want to add something to this. I want you to start off by saying, like for myself, I center myself every day. Every day I center myself. So when I operate the same way. I put myself in a state of flow. So how do you center yourself so you can remain in that state? So because as human beings, things happen and things go wrong. And sometimes we can go wrong with it. Okay. So how do you center yourself so you stay on point, on purpose, and of who you are and connected? And then give us an example of a situation you've addressed where that compassion and empathy and leadership really made a stark difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So how do I center myself? Hopefully frequently, often, and repeatedly. Because the world is a constant barrage at us, and I think that we certainly see the negative examples and the negative impact of this cancel culture that we're in. And I think empathy really is that antithesis to that cancel culture, because the cancel is, I don't understand you, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to put you down, I'm going to cancel you, you don't exist, I'm going to erase you. Where empathy really is that I may or may not have that shared experience, but I'm going to open myself up to hearing your experience. I may not have felt exactly what you feel, but I'm going to leave myself open to what you feel. And I think, in my case, that's definitely a quality that I need to have with my clients, because I seek out massive diversity in our client base, because we have 144 speakers in our community, and I literally want them to be experts in different things. I want them to be 4-figure to 8-figure business owners. I want them looking for different opportunities, because if they were of a similar ilk or experience or expertise, I couldn't serve them, because they'd all be looking for the same opportunities. So because they're so different, obviously their experiences are not my own. And so sometimes I have to admit that. I had a client not that long ago who, I like to point out that I'm a believer in woo that works. And I'm certainly open to spirituality, and I'm open to the fact that I don't understand everything. And then there are times when somebody's going down a path and I can't quite follow them.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my case, that means sometimes I just need to admit that. Like, you're venturing into an area that I don't have understanding. And I think that's me being in a place of empathy when I can say, you know what? I know exactly what you're feeling. This is what I went through. This was my experience. And it's also when we say, I don't understand that, but I'm listening. And I think a big topic is diversity and inclusion today.
Mm-hmm.
I had an amazing conversation with one of my clients not that long ago. And I said, I really want to have a conversation, because it's scary to step out into this topic. It feels like a landmine if you're perceived as, having some, and actually having benefits that others don't have. And I said, so how do I recognize the fact that, as a white female, maybe there are doors that have been opened for me that I didn't even recognize it as a privilege, but like, how do I recognize things without but I have questions. Like, I don't know how to answer this question. And that was a big example of, I think in my case, of leadership and empathy, was to sit down with someone and say, share your experience with me, because I don't understand. Just like, I don't think, you're a male, Mo is a male. I can never truly understand what it's like to be a male. It's not been my experience. But I can ask questions, I can listen, I can relate it to my own. So I think that we have to understand that there are topics that we can be empathetic about, but we also have to realize our limitations. And we as leaders have to realize our expertise does have a border and an edge, and we need to be open when our expertise needs to be broadened. So I've had a couple of experience recently, one with diversity and inclusion. And then I actually had a situation with my kids not that long ago. We had our kids had brought some friends. We'd gone on kind of a day trip, and we were going on another trip with some friends. And I found out that in the 2 months since I'd last seen this young teen, they now wanted to be recognized with a different pronoun. They wanted to be recognized by a different name. And I had to have the same kind of conversation with my kids. Like, this is outside my experience. Share with me. How should I be in this experience? What do I need to know? And I think as leaders, we need to both stand in what we know and give structure. Kindness can be firm. Kindness can be structure and meeting expectations. But then we also need to know when we don't have all the answers. And I think that's where empathy and leadership and kindness really comes into play, is where we kind of like humility. We know exactly what we know, and we stand firm in what we know. And we're also leaders enough to say, I don't know. I have questions. That's not been my experience. please share with me. And I think that's where a lot of the kindness can come in, when we just admit to people and we give them a voice so that we can learn and they can be elevated in our learning.
Wow, thank you so much, Lisa. I want to ask you to share as well, and give us an example. But also, have you ever been in a situation where a person addresses a challenge or addresses something that may have happened, or some perception of something happened, and it made you feel as though your power was being taken away, you were being attacked, or not honored in that situation? So share on both sides of the spectrum, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, James, so Dr. James Gently, I love the fact that you posed the question in that way, um, because I think it goes down to, and a lot, Rachel, Danella, and Lori have touched upon this, um, understanding who you are and what you bring to the table and the spaces that you're in, right? Rachel talked about the experience that she had with someone on her team. Well, I was on the other side of that. I was in a role where I made a mistake. I put, and it was, think about a decimal point or a comma, and I put it in the wrong place, and I caused the client a lot of money, right? I made a mistake. And what did I do? But I was in an environment where I had a team that was supportive, that as soon as I realized what happened, so I need to fix this. I need to, one, say what happened, but going back to the question from earlier, I had built relationships with teams that could help support me in fixing it. And so I call them and say, hey, I made a mistake. I need to make it right. I know we can't fix it today, but what can be done? Can you help support me? Because I built the relationship with those individuals, not for that reason, but I was able to call upon them to say, I made a mistake. I want to make it right. How do we make this whole? And what can we do next, right? And really brought our kind of team together in a really, really unique way to actually solve the issue for the client. And then we actually brought in and deepened the relationship, because that mistake allowed us to have open conversations about what other needs were, right? And so I think in that scenario, I could have felt personally attacked, like, oh, I made the mistake, but I did, right? And so I think that's when you have to be real with yourself. You also have to be empathetic with yourself to say, I'm going to give myself grace. Like, I did make a mistake. I should have checked for that. I did not, but what can I do now, right? How can I work with the individuals that I am around to figure out how to make it right, and to have that real kind of discussion with yourself? Because I think kindness is also, you want to be kind with the other people, but you also have to be kind to yourself, because there are going to be a lot of instances in life where you have a lot of chances to take an action. And what are you going to do? And how can you meet yourself where you're at? And if you made a mistake, learn from it and grow from it, right? If you need advice, seek that advice, and then figure out what is the next step to it. So, there have been times, and I think you just have to have that self-reflection and that ability to say, who am I? What am I bringing to the table? And be honest with yourself. Did I make a mistake? And see it like, if you did, just be real. It's not a personal attack. Look at things as factual or not, right? Like, I think Danella mentioned it. You can be kind and you can be firm, right? So if it is a fact, address it as a fact and figure out how to move from that place, right? And I think it just takes a level of self-awareness, a level of that personal grace, and then also being in an environment where you can be supported, because it can be the opposite, right? Where someone might come at you at a certain way and it wasn't you, and what do you do then, right? But I think sometimes it's taking feelings out of it and looking at things as factual, and then figuring out how to move from that space.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Mr. Moe Rock, before I turn it back over to you, thank you for inviting me to share in this topic, because I've been in management since I was 18 years of age, one of the youngest in the country in the fields I was in. And I remember in the 70s, the managers, when I was an employee, they screamed at you. They screamed at you. It was scream management. And then, so when I became a manager, being the youngest person in there, and all my employees were older than I screamed at people. And then they brought out a great book called The 1 Minute Manager, and the culture began to shift. That was when the awareness came for there was a different way to to manage because if you're in a powered situation where you control someone's salary, their livelihood, how they feed their families, how they go home, and the attitude and how they show up for their families from the day that they've had, then I learned that can be it's a great responsibility, but you have to care because they are people, and you learn to praise in public and address the challenges in private, to contain the situation, to ask questions, to get curious. And even with my employees, when I was managing in steak and ale restaurants throughout Texas with 150 employees, I realized very quickly that these people who had been in that restaurant 5 years longer and I'm walking in the first day, that they already had the answers, but they weren't being heard. So in empowering other people to create a culture, so then people want to come. I've even terminated people and they would hug me and thank me because I didn't take away the sense of dignity, the sense of purpose. It wasn't personal. They knew I did everything we possibly could in agreement to make it work, to be in harmony. And I think that's very important. So I want to thank you for inviting me tonight and these incredible ladies. I'll turn it back over to Presidential Lifetime Achievement recipient, Mr. Moe Rock.
Thank you, Dr. James Dentley. Believe it or not, folks, we only have about 15 to 20 minutes left of this program, and our hour is just about up. And I am just so excited because this has been such a powerful program. If you're watching, this is one of the shows that you got to watch at least twice, because Baron Dr. James Dentley, Rachel Weaver, Alicia Magnus Lewis, Danella Burnett, and Lori McNeil have brought so much wisdom in this hour. And, you know, the subject matter is near and dear to my heart, because I think that there's nothing weaker or nothing more pathetic than someone that's been blessed to have power that's an asshole about it. And so, you know, here in Southern California, we have one or two people like that you bump into here and there. And I just, you know, I've never liked that. I don't like, you know, it doesn't resonate with me. And I also think that there's a time and place. Just because we're kind doesn't mean we're weak, right? And notice that the title is, Can Kindness Catapult You to Success? Not Can Niceness Catapult You to Success? Because there's also a distinction between being kind and being nice. If someone, you know, if I bump into someone at an event and they say, Mo, you know what? You're a real nice guy. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to say, what did I ever do to you for you to insult me like that? Because I don't want to be known as a nice guy. I'm honored when someone calls me kind. There is a distinction. Don't call me a nice guy, but thank you for considering me a kind guy. The term nice is a derivative of a French word that originally was foolish. And so what we're telling people here on the Los Angeles Tribune is be kind, be loving, be empathetic, but don't be foolish. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, because a lot of people don't understand what it means to be kind. A lot of people don't understand what it means to be empathetic. And hopefully today we helped somebody realize that distinction, because there's people that are walking, and maybe someone listening to this live or watching this on replay, this might hit you home, you know, hit you in the heart. Don't be a floor mat. Don't be a pushover. Don't always try to appease the people in your life. If you try to appease everybody in your life, then that means you're putting yourself last. So here at the LA Tribune, we encourage leadership. We encourage strength. We encourage integrity, empathy, kindness. This is not a place for nice people. Okay. In fact, I'm declaring this, and Alicia, you're one of the producers of the show. I'm banning nice people from the Moe Rock Show. If anyone out there ever wants to be a guest and you're nice, you're not welcome here. We only want kind people. And with that, in the last 10 minutes here, I just want to have everybody have the floor to share their final words of wisdom. Again, I want to thank Baron Dr. James Dentley, a role model, one of my personal mentors who I've learned a lot from, somebody that has paved the way for positivity in media with JD3 TV. And all of the great programming that they have. You know, when I gave a TED Talk in Utah a few months ago, thanks to Rachel Weaver helping make that opportunity possible for me, I did a lot of research on my TED Talk, and I discovered that for every news program, for every TV show, for every article that's negative, and the correlation between negative content and positive content was 17-1. So 17 violent TV shows, 17 negative TV shows, 17 articles that focus on the negative in the world, only one for 17. We need companies like JD3 TV to help bridge that gap. We need the help of folks that have programming here at the LA Tribune to help bridge that gap. Because 17-1 is a scandal. And so we're working hard every day with programs like this to help bridge that gap. And with that, we want to give the final floor to each person here in the last 10, 15 minutes of this week's program. And let's start with our special guest. Actually, I'm going to save our special guest co-host for last, because that'd be a strong a way to close the program. So let's go to you, Miss Rachel Weaver, please.
Thank you so much, Mo. It was such an honor and pleasure to be here with all of you incredible leaders, including Baron Dr. James Dentley. It's always just such an honor to be on any stage or platform with you, as you're such a true inspiration to each and every one of us. So thank you. And thank you, Mo, for this opportunity, and the Los Angeles Tribune. I truly believe that kindness and empathy is something that we need to move in a way that we are always keeping that at the forefront of everything we do in life. And as Mo, Dr. Dentley, Lori, all of us here, Danella, Alicia, who I just got to recently hug and meet for the first time, really executes on the definition of true kindness and how you exuberate your energy into the world. And I truly believe as leaders, we do owe it, and we have a responsibility to ourselves and to each and every person who looks up to us to show kindness and empathy in the world. Because if we are talking reality, just like Mo said, for every 17 interviews or TV shows out there, there's only one positive. Everything else is negative. So it takes thought leaders, purpose-driven thought leaders like all of us, to show up with that kindness and that empathy to make the impact and the positive energy that this entire world needs today. So thank you for allowing me to be here, Mo.
Thank you so much, Rachel Weaver. Danella Burnett, closing words, please.
Well, Moe Rock and Sir Dr. Dentley, it's kind of you to have invited me here tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be involved with anything that the LA Tribune is doing, because I do see and have experienced and fortunate enough to have been a part of many of your programs and presentations and the change that you're looking to make in the world. You know, we all have 24 hours in the day, and really the only choice that we have every day is, what do we want to bring to it, and what's the impact that we want to make in this 24 hours? We're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised a fortune. We're not promised any of those things that we strive for, but we can attack every day with our own version of success, and we can define that, and we can bring the kindness that we want to it. And we've had the opportunity to have success because of the environment that we're building and we're creating every day. And I think that by bringing ourselves together in environments like this, we are making an impact. We're making an impact, and hopefully a year from now, it won't be 17-1, maybe it'll be 10-1, and we'll continue to make an impact on the world. And some of the things that we've talked about here today, like cancel culture and other things, we can take the strides to make that change. So I'm really honored to be here today. I'm honored to have been a part of this conversation and to both bring what I have to the table, but also to learn from all of you. I mean, I love the experts that you bring to the table. I love being in this industry. I love being in this environment of positivity. And tonight will be one of those nights that when I lay my head down, I'm going to feel proud for the me that was in today. So thank you so much.
And you know, Danella, and Dr. Dentley, earlier you said that you've never seen Danella ever be unkind. You haven't known her as long as I have. I've known her for about 10 years. So just stay patient. You know, she has a side to her. No, I'm just joking.
Well,
Alicia,
I am a redhead. There are moments, but
yeah.
you know.
Alicia Magnus Lewis, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mo, for what a great conversation. I think it's important, and the distinction between kindness and niceness is important as well. I grew up working in the corporate world. I started really young, and I remember when I was really young, I had a manager that was so mean. It was so hard to go to work. It was such a tough environment, and I knew there were so many people, including myself on the team, that were going through things, and it was just so tough, right? And I remember thinking, I don't know when I'm going to be a leader. I don't know when I'm going to be running a team, but I know I don't want to show up and feel like that or make people feel like that. And it's like has been mentioned here before. People are going to remember how you make them feel. Maya Angelou said it best. People don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. So if there's any message, it's just to remember that people are people first. They are a person first. Connect with them authentically. Doesn't mean that you can't be firm, you can't have boundaries, you can't have expectations, but remember that people are first and they have lives and they may not tell you what's going on, but if you can have that openness, the ability to learn or to create a space to have a conversation, right? Like you may not agree with someone, but have a space to be able to have a conversation with someone and create that openness. You can create so much when energy meets energy, right? You create a positive environment, you're going to get it back. If something is a difficult situation, but you still create space to have difficult conversations, you'll get the impact that you want back out of that. And so I think the message is, in a world where people can be thought of as numbers, people connect digitally, remember that people are people first, and that's a better way to connect with them and ultimately get to the outcomes that you're both seeking. So thank you for the conversation.
I think that point is so powerful, that people are people, and a lot of times human beings are intimidated by so-called people of power or people of influence or celebrity. And when you're around these kinds of people, and I've been around various different industries, including the entertainment industry, etc. Your point is so true. People are people. People have the same, the same flaws, same hopes, same issues. And so, I think that the lesson, there's many lessons of what you shared, Alicia, but one of which is don't put people on a pedestal when you're looking to do business, because everyone is a human being. And thank you for sharing that, Alicia. And to your point, also, I believe that there is such thing as a human spirit and a human soul. And just because we don't understand it, just because we haven't figured out what it is, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And so I love what you said about not looking at people like they're numbers or fixtures, but actually recognizing the human soul and the human spirit. Lori McNeil, floor is yours, please.
Wow, what an amazing discussion. Thank you so much to everyone here for just contributing to such an important topic. One of the things that comes to mind that I truly believe in, that sounds so simple, and yet I think it's really important to understand the deeper, profound impact of, is to never forget the influence that you have in the hearts, souls, and minds of everyone all around you all the time. When you are truly kind and when you truly operate in a world at a higher level and not allow the negative influence of everything else around you, you do get the attention, you do get that ROI, you do get to work with amazing rock star people, you do have that impact on all these different levels. And I'm reminded of this through a situation that I had no idea the impact that I was having on this young gal. Her parents were going through a divorce at the time. This was in my younger mid 20s, and I was trying to help her through a really hard time. So this has been quite a few years ago, but I've never forgotten it. And I was mentoring her through this very difficult time in her life. And years, and I mean years later, I was at a book fair with my son, and this young woman came running up to me And she said, "Are you Lori?" And I said, "Yes." And I didn't recognize her, actually. And she goes, "You probably don't remember me, but I have been waiting the last," and I want to say 15 years. "I've been waiting the last 15 years for the opportunity to run into you to say thank you." And so we began a conversation that touched me to the core and reminded me of the impact that we have by just giving people genuine kindness and our time through our actions that touches the lives of the hearts, souls, and minds of everyone around us all the time, that literally changes the trajectory of their lives and potential for generations. She said, "I want you to know that because of your kindness and because of your mentorship and the time that you gave me through the most difficult time in my life, I completely changed my entire perspective on life. I changed my entire life of how I show up as a mom, as a daughter, as a wife." She said, "You helped me change the trajectory of my entire family's tree. And I owe it all to who you are and the kindness and the space that you held for me. And I've been waiting 15 years to tell you that." And it touched me so greatly and has always served as a reminder to never, ever underestimate the power that each one of us has in changing lives every single day just by showing up in our authentic, kind, genuine self in the best capacity that we can. And you may not ever hear from someone, you may not ever understand the ramifications or the results of the time and the effort that you put into something, but just know that who you are is changing the frequency in the world. And you have to trust that you were created to do exactly what it is that you are doing in the world. You are created to do exactly that in only a way that you can. And you have to have that faith and that trust that God and the universe are taking care of everything else if you just show up in the way that you were meant to.
Powerful. And thank you so much, Lori. We only have 3 minutes left, according to this hourglass. So we're going to give the floor to our special guest co-host, Dr. James Dentley, Sir Dr. James Dentley, who's also a Baron. Baron Dr. James Dentley, please, closing remarks. Floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mo. But oh my goodness, I just wanted to hear Rachel speak. I wanted her to have that time. What I have to say, I don't even really know. So I'm, as full as I am, if I can do it in 3 minutes. But if we can have Rachel back or get on one of our shows, and because
Actually, let's bring Rachel up. I didn't notice that. I'm sorry, Rachel, that I skipped you. Did I skip you? You gave your final word, right?
I went first.
Okay, she went first, so we're in the clear.
But I still want to be on your show, Dr. Dentley.
I want to point out what a gentleman you are, Dr. James Dentley, and I also want to point out what you just did was very kind. It was not nice, but it was kind. Please, Dr. Dentley.
First of all, and you have to control the controllables. In life, there's so many things you cannot control. You cannot control what happens outside of you. But we have to learn how to control what's happening inside of us to become more inner directed versus outer directed. When things go wrong, you don't just go wrong with it. You can't fly off of that because you're out of control. Even in a spiritual sense, a person that cannot control their anger and their temper is like a city without walls. You leave yourself open and defenseless to possibility first and foremost. So if you look at life itself, we experience life from the inside out, not the outside in. If you're looking at me right now or you're hearing me, you're not hearing me. You're seeing me through your eyes, not with your eyes. You're seeing, all you're doing is light is projected into the retina and then hits your brain and tells you an image of what you're seeing, and the same thing to your eardrum of what you're hearing. Is vibrational, it's frequency there. So we're experiencing life inside of ourselves. And if you can get inside and make a decision of who you're going to be every single day I wake up and make a conscious decision to fall in love with my wife all over again. She has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with how she responds, behavior. I just show up that way because then I have clarity. When I have clarity, life runs better. And if you can do that and bring and understand the power of agreement, that enrollment is always agreement. It's about bringing people to agreement, even if you agree that you disagree. because you can love somebody across the street. But if you are inner directed, then you're calm, you have clarity, and you'll find that your vision can be expanded, and you'll stop saying things like, let's think outside of the box, and start realizing that there is no box. When I'm coaching and mentoring people, Mo, the first thing I ask them, if I have to address a behavior or something that they're doing, I ask for permission. Even as a coach, as a mentor, as a consultant, do I have your permission to share something with you? Is it okay if I'm very honest with you? Because I understand when I ask a question, I know what the answer is going to be, yes. And when I say it, it's also about the tone of your voice. Because understanding as someone who's been training speakers and communicators for 30 years and teaching the psychology of it, which most people still don't teach, and it's okay, but this is just my thing, is that when you understand that and you start to listen and grow and understand that 55% of your communication isn't even verbal. It's about how you show up. It's energy, it's frequency, it's your gestures, it's all those other things that all contribute to how you show up with empathy and being present with another person and loving them. Even if you have to correct their behavior, you don't have to break the spirit. But it begins first and foremost by understanding how we work on ourselves and realizing that we love it if something was perfect, but we are imperfect. So if you get in a perfect situation, when your imperfect self gets in there, it becomes imperfect. So therefore, we work, we grow, we love, and we control ourselves. And who we are will permeate on the outside and how we show up. Because in life, you get who you are. And if you want that peace, that tranquility, the ability to expand your vision, to create the life and to manifest, to create that team, you have to be calm, you have to be patient, you have to be a student, you have to care, you have to ask questions, and you have to understand that people, no matter where they are, they're important and they want to be heard, because the greatest human need is one of significance, and every life is, because we're all rare. Nobody has your DNA. We can pick you out of 7 billion people on the planet with a drop of blood or a strand of hair, beautifully and wonderfully made. There's no one else like you. So stop trying to be like everybody else and live your full, authentic life. Make the mistakes, but don't chastise people and don't let it roll downhill and take it to your homes or take it out on somebody else. Learn to calm down and get centered and become inner directed and maintain that peace, that sense of peace and clarity. And I promise you, everything you want is already there in front of you. You just can't see it. But if you calm down, you'll learn to experience life instead of merely just living it.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for that. And there's a reason why the very first inductee into the Los Angeles Tribune Hall of Fame was Baron Dr. James Dentley, as you can hear. Poetry in motion when you hear his words, because they're authentic, powerful, and they land like a laser beam. And easier said than done. As far as not being attached to the outcome when we choose to be kind or when we choose to be loving, and I think that's where mastery exists. What Dr. Dentley just shared with us is, he said, every day I fall back in love with my wife, and I'm not concerned about her reaction. That's me doing it internally. And consequently, when we interact with other human beings in life, in business, personal, whatever the case may be, everyone has their own version of reality. Robert Antoine Wilson, one of my favorite authors, once shared this idea of a reality tunnel, where every human being has their own reality tunnel. I have my reality tunnel. Lori has hers. Everyone on here, all the billions of human beings have their own reality tunnel. And of course, Freud taught us in the late 1800s this idea of projection, right? And so we can't see in other people something that we're not, doesn't exist in ourselves. So you could be the most kind person to somebody, and you can go above and beyond to help them in a multitude of different ways, and they may not even recognize that. They may see the opposite. They may think you're after them, or whatever the case may be. It's none of my business what anyone thinks about me. I know who Mo is, and I think that's the final message here. Is what the Greeks taught us: know thyself. There's a reason why they said know thyself. They didn't say up on the bridge know other people. They said know thyself, right? And so it's a lifelong journey, and I want to thank Baron Dr. James Dentley for being our special guest co-host. This is the Moe Rock Show right here on the Los Angeles Tribune, where we are changing the status quo of media. And we will see you back here next week. I want to thank everyone in the virtual auditorium, as well as all of the awesome experts here on stage. See you all next week.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.